I have here 9 titles, names, words, sentences, which I will go through slowly with a tiny bit of commentary, which have proven useful when I want to know what I'm thinking about. And I share it with you by, I propose or suggest that they are so condensed already from innumerable other conversations that I was doomed to have to either participate in or listen to, that any clown can now come and simply do as if I've never written it. So it doesn't make much difference. The way in which we exist, most likely, is not identical with the way we are described to exist, and certainly are not the willful execution of our biological conditions. In other words, the scientific understanding of living systems is only one part of what we need in order to coexist with living systems. That is, if an argument arises, then it becomes of the greatest importance that one knows why living systems are living, and if the word living means anything, what it does mean. If no argument arises, we live in another sphere of social interaction, and that's the one I would like now to make myself heard. So I don't ignore anything that can be speculated, known, conjectured, explained. I would like to show how I maneuver through life with the minimum of damage done. And I claim that this particular sheet is influenced strongly, not just by cybernetics, but has had its beginning in 1968, when I did meet Heinz von Förster, when I did meet Ciccio Maturana, and I for the first time found people who know the difference between an idea, a thought, a realization, and knew that in order to learn the new language, one has to use the old one advisedly. So I call them fundamentals. Some people have called them fundamentals. And they can be used by anybody, and you will find them on the table later. Number 1, I call it my inner committee of criteria. It consists of 2 groups. A, those I inherited and have to respect, and those I appointed and thus can fire. Committee of criteria meets spontaneously when I need help in making a decision, a choice, a change. Or in another language, I sit in a room like this with a table like this with a little lamp, it's dark. And I write and I get stuck. It's another word for needing a decision, a change. I mean, I'm stuck. Short. Suddenly, doors open all around me. And the criteria look in, and they start jabbering at me. Take me, you liked me the last time, da-da-da. Do this, why don't you do this? Then they start screaming at one another. Imagine a theater play where the actors are prompted by more than one prompter. And that the prompters are not in agreement with the script. Wouldn't that be fun? But that is approximately the situation in which I find not only single people, but I, for instance, do enjoy very much, and that is a compliment of the highest order I can pay, that a meeting like this, where the committees of criteria are so drastically intermingled and confronted, is so pleasant, is a reason to have it again. I mean it. It's wonderful. Number 2, more seriously, we develop eventually in life what we might then call, when asked, our main interest or main interests. They are also somewhere among the criteria when decisions have to be made. And there are some of these have the loudest voice, and some of them have the largest agreement among themselves. So there may be one main interest which screams, and then there are second main interests that join together and make little choirs. My recommendation is use the main interest nested within the secondary interests. The secondary interest should be the nest in which you want to lay your real egg. And it must be large enough so that the egg doesn't break if you put it in the wrong place. Find a secondary interest large enough to host and nest your main interest so that the host can protect the guest from the guest's mistakes and errors. If I consider myself mainly a composer, I made changing society my secondary interest, and I am composer within the condition that I change society, or want to at least, or I'm busy with it. This cannot be damaged even if I write a bad piece. And I want to be able to write bad pieces because I'm not willing to make mistakes. I stop experimenting. If I stop experimenting, I can go home. And that goes for everybody, even those who consider some other thing. Not only composers are mentally something demented. Third, choice. That is more or less, I think, a reminder only. A choice is a condition for the generation of significance. Anything that was not choice between alternatives, nothing has any meaning, no matter what anybody says. Of course, in our social world, things is what's said about them, but a lot what's said about them is slander and libel. So beware. If you cannot detect in a statement or report what it says no to, then you haven't got the meaning. Then you are in the presence of dictatorship, or what you so very contemptuously call manipulation, although I must say manipulation is one of the most wonderful feelings one can have. Choice manifests your freedom as the number of alternatives you have for choice. Freedom is nothing else but the number of alternatives. And you can detect that immediately when you, for instance, have a plan to change something. The first thing that happens to you, your alternatives diminish immediately. Because you have to, in order to state your point, avoid lots of other points you have been used to. If you want to fight for the blacks or for the whites or for the greens, or for the women or whatever, the first thing you do, you constrain, not that, not that, not that, not that, and finally you are sitting there with three alternatives and become a big bore. However, that does not accuse the aim or goal. It only makes you very lousy strategists. So the joke is, and the pleasure is, if I distinguish between the best alternative, where I have to put all others down in order to call it the best, or if I want to rather make the best choice, where I keep them all up so that I can use them tomorrow, and that I call the one I choose only the nowest and not the best choice. So I distinguish between the best alternative and the best choice. I recommend the best choice if they two are not identical. Frequently they are identical. More often they are appear identical. Most often they are lied about and claimed to be identical. Don't believe it. Investigate. Fourth, this is difficult, so I make it brief. The art of instantaneous remembering. Try and project an event you care for while it happens to you into an imagined past, so that you can experience the event simultaneously now and once upon a time. Just try. It takes a little while. Once you learn that, every pleasant appearance I call it an experience you care for. I don't want to limit it. Try and live it immediately, simultaneously twice, once in the present tense and once in the past tense. There I was and I saw, and there I am and I see. And best is if you talk to yourself. Do it, and let everybody around you think you're crazy. All I can promise to you, it is an added riches, and it is not substitutable with anything else, by anything else. Fifth, that's a very old one. It comes from the 60s, but it lives with me on and on and on, and I repeat here because it's been unsuccessful. The establishment of connections, or the establishment of connections. You find the first waiting for you when you are born. That's the establishment of connections. The ready-made spider web in which you are the fly. You see the second waving bye-bye to you when you die, namely after you establish your connections. You are done by and for the first. You do for and in spite of the first, the second. So it is a nice thing in the languages that have capitals and lowercase. The first sentence is the capital E establishment of connections, and the other is the establishment of connections. I have an added sentence where a connection is missed, and by me missed. I am needed. This is just if you want to establish your identity in a society that forgets occasionally to flatter you, compliment you, applaud you, take notion of you and say hi, then you say it to yourself and say, there's a connection missing. I need it. All this is results of reading papers on cybernetics, recursion, circularity, self-reference, and if you are in tune, you will notice behind it the whisperings of all these papers between Heinz von Förster, Bateson, Maturana, Parsk, Ashby. 6, very important, performance. I speak about the word performance. I use the word performance when I want to speak of the following. Sharing your presence. Sharing your presence. Not the content, not the form, not an opinion. Just, I'm here. Sometimes it's done by looking at somebody. It is the colloquial, vulgar version of consensual domain. Conveying your thought and your intention. That need not necessarily be the consensual domain. It probably cannot do without it, but it is the first one really is. The second is already making use of it. Conveying your thought and your attention. Not only one. Lou, thank you. Carrying your messages so that they reach out the way you want, which is different from being a successful writer. That it should be fulfilled already at the time you write the thing. The other fulfillments are of a different kind. I don't deny their need, but it's not what I mean. The feeling of reach out the way you want should be felt by you on the day I've written it. And you can be sure that all these sentences I share with you gave me that feeling one day. Some of it recently and some time ago. But you don't get any sentence where I didn't have the feeling it does reach out. Now I hope somebody is there. 7th, now we get into the more delicate things. Truth, honesty, lies. Truth is the time of consistency. Period.
honesty, whether time or not, neither more nor less than you know. So no virtue. Probably infinite boredom. Lies. Everything and anything believed. Eight. Utopia, chaos, false statements. A. Utopia. The dream which in your mental and social universe will be but a dream. And not necessary to go to any greater profundities, since it is, a utopia is an empirical, experiential, it's a receipt for time received, and it didn't come true, so you call it utopia. If tomorrow it comes true, I thought it was a utopia, is then the next reaction. The danger of it, however, is that the prediction that something, because it is a utopia, will remain a utopia, is used politically. So, discern between report and argument. If somebody reports it can't be done according to the best of my experience, fine. If he says it cannot be done because I couldn't, then you can't either, then say, or something nice. Chaos, full of information and doomed to decay, communication, exclamation point. That is overlooked and should not be overlooked much longer, or at least should be countered during the trend is going on. The true chaos we experience is communication. Just listen. Lastly, ethics, morals, manners, principles. That would probably be interesting for another conference, but maybe we can do it very simple. A, ethics, dilute power, increase freedom. Any decision you make that fulfills those two conditions should have first looks. Any answer to any question that does not fulfill those two conditions simultaneously should be put on the back burner, postponed, re-inspected, or maybe scratched. That is ethics. I didn't say that I'm acting ethically myself, nor do I claim that you have to do that immediately now. There's more in this difficulty of proper thinking without increasing the power. I have the possibility right now here, while by appointment I sit here and I am permitted to talk to you. If I make use of it by telling you actually not only what you think, but have the audacity to tell you something that I think, then I probably not always dilute power. But then I have invented the floating hierarchies, that in 10 minutes I'm doomed to listen to what you say. That is acceptable. All this is, in case of argument, know that. Morals, unwritten, maybe, but laws. Unfortunately, you can't say, well, these are just agreements and conventions. Unfortunately, they function like laws. You can be punished for them, you can be hanged for them, people have been crucified for them. Manners, conduct convenient for interpersonal relations, conduct convenient for interpersonal relations of trivial acts. That's manners. And principles, appointed barriers against changes of mind. Notice that in all these 9 things, there is no reference to a superpower. There is no reference to any of the hierarchies, nature, power, beliefs. These are all syntactic constructions that use the words of the language in which they make the statements clear. and to, nor do I argue. I explain that that works. Maybe there is any comment right now.
We're all used to dashboards in our cars with scales that tell us different things as we read them. And I was wondering if the Brün comes to be a unit of measure.
The Brün.
On a meter that sits on our dashboard of life, what would you like it to be?
This. Maybe there's more. I don't say that's all, but that is certainly a substantial part of what I would like to start with. Can we continue this in another, or here, after we change the program? The next program is Problem Juzzle. Steve is over there. He knows what's what. My time is up, so to speak.